God, I miss my live studio audience. We have internet problems, so we can't do this in front of my virtual studio audience. This is very lonely. Welcome to the mop-up for November 1st, 2022. I'm David Feldman, coming to you from an air shaft overlooking a parking garage all alone somewhere in New York City where the temperature is 61 degrees and wet, and I'm lonely. A quick programming note, this week's schedule is different. The midterms are exactly 1 week away, and I'm having internet issues. So I'm not doing the show with our virtual studio audience through Zoom. The connection is unstable. As some of you already surmised, we had a major internet outage and had to cut last Thursday's taping short. I will spare you the gory details, but somehow I got Monday's audio podcast up. We're bringing in a new router, some new Ethernet cables, and then there are some other technical issues that have to be addressed. It's a nightmare. I know people have more serious problems, but it's still, a nightmare. We do the show 52 weeks a year, no breaks, and somehow we're jerry-rigging a show today, and we're going to be doing a show all week as we go along. I don't know how we're going to do it, but right now it looks like more shows this week, but shorter ones, no virtual studio audience via Zoom, and that sucks because I really, really miss everyone. Apparently, I'm not the only one having internet problems. Instagram crashed yesterday. Instagram is owned by Facebook, whose stock also crashed yesterday and pretty much the entire year. Facebook's stock is down about 71% for 2022. Give me a second while I wipe the tears from my eyes for poor Mark Zuckerberg. Who would have ever guessed getting the entire world to hate you isn't always the best business model? Who would have guessed? Facebook is spending billions on alternative reality, and it's losing money because Mark Zuckerberg has yet to invent an alternative reality where he's not a virtual peeping Tom mining our personal information and then selling it. Given what Facebook has done to America's democracy, instead of alternative reality, they should give actual reality a try. But Facebook can't. Facebook only gives customers more of what the customers like, more of what they want to see. Not good. Not good for democracy. Imagine a classroom where the teacher only teaches what the students were interested in. Then, you're not going to educate your kids. And adults, we're supposed to keep learning. But because of these internet silos, what's happening is we're only learning what we think we want to learn. We're only learning what excites our brains. We're being told what delights us, not what's important. That's why Americans are so docile when it comes to health insurance or credit card companies gouging us. We're being fed digital opiates that medicate our rage at the system. And these social media giants distract us so we don't take the time to be better citizens. We don't need virtual reality. We don't need alternative realities. We need to alter the only reality we have, and that is our planet and our democracy, both of which are dying partly because of our social media-induced torpor. Social media is only a positive force when we get more out of it than the people who own the social media platforms. We don't. We don't get more out of it than Mark Zuckerberg. There is an actual reality out there with facts. What we're up against are, as we all know, alternative facts that mushroom when we are given alternative realities. Facebook gives users what they want to see. That's why Republicans think 2020 was stolen. That's why Republicans think tax cuts for the wealthy balance the budget. That's why Republicans think climate emergency isn't man-made. We already have an alternative reality, Facebook. It's called the Republican Party. It doesn't matter how many authorities, fact checkers, and police officers say no, Paul Pelosi was not attacked by a male prostitute because we have Elon Musk, who now owns Twitter. When the new owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, tweets to his tens of millions of followers a link to a fake news story reporting that Paul Pelosi hired his attacker for sex, and then the sex went bad. When Elon Musk spreads that lie on his Twitter account, that lie becomes a reality for millions who want to believe that Paul Pelosi was beaten up by a male prostitute. Does Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in the world, lack the internet literacy to recognize fact from fiction? Or does he think social media, Twitter, that it has no real world consequences and should just be fun? Either way, Elon Musk is irresponsible, dangerous, and cannot be trusted. Newspapers in America can be trusted. They still can be trusted. They have actual fact checkers, proofreaders, editors, and reporters, newspapers. And while their editorial pages are biased, their reporting at least strives for as much objectivity as is humanly possible in a capitalist society that only allows just so much information to leak out. Now, yes, newspapers, local ones, are flawed, but to this day, they are still the building blocks of intellectual discourse. The commentariat on social media or in the blogosphere would not exist without the sharing and then commenting on of real, actual journalism. Without real journalists who make no money, there can be no fake journalists who do make money. Sadly, real journalists are in trouble because newspapers are dying. The Associated Press says 2 American newspapers go out of business each week. And why is that? People still read newspapers, maybe not in print, but they read them digitally. Newspapers are dying because their business model has been co-opted by the internet giants, people like Mark Zuckerberg and now Elon Musk. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Twitter are stealing digital advertising from newspapers. Google, Facebook, Amazon get close to 70% of all digital advertising. To put it another way, there is more money to be made recommending a story in the Manchester Guardian. There's more money in recommending a story to viewers that's in the Manchester Guardian than there is in being the owner of the Manchester Guardian. Google, Facebook, and now Twitter, they make so much in advertising dollars off their platforms and also selling advertising on a newspaper's platform, they leave absolutely nothing on the table for the actual content providers. We are talking about monopolies, and you cannot negotiate fees with monopolies. You have to break them up. You can't rely on philanthropists to donate money to newspapers because philanthropists have something to hide. So you're not going to get real journalism. You cannot negotiate with a monopoly. You have to break it up. Now, is a monopoly efficient? Of course it is for the people who own the monopoly, but it's not efficient for the consumers, and it's certainly not efficient for our democracy, where 3 companies are sucking up nearly 70% of all digital advertising at the expense of our news media and at the expense of our democracy. 70%. That leaves 30% of digital advertising to smaller monopolies. and they don't include newspapers and local reporters. According to the Associated Press, 2 newspapers, as I said, go out of business each week. And we're talking newspapers as in print, but every single newspaper has a digital presence. I've actually heard idiots say, well, newspapers are going out of business because of the internet. People don't read actual paper anymore. No, you're an idiot. Newspapers know that. For decades, they've put all their content online. They have most of their readers right now online. But because of monopolies, they don't get to keep any of the advertising money. Every newspaper made the transition to digital decades ago, but the advertising revenue disappeared. It got sucked up by Craigslist, which took all the money newspapers used to earn from classifieds, and the big advertising revenue, as I said, besides the classifieds that goes to Craigslist, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Twitter get pretty much the rest of the digital advertising that newspapers got when they were in print. 360 newspapers, as a result, that serve local communities, 360 newspapers have gone out of business in the past 3 years. According to the Associated Press, America has only 6,377 newspapers left. Back in 2005, there were 8,891. Now, while some newspapers have indeed survived, look at them. Go look at these newspapers. They are stripped down versions of their former selves. Most newspapers are owned by private equity firms that care more about the real estate owned by the newspaper than the actual product. What you see in most newspapers today are copy and paste stories from a wire service or a press release. Journalism is slowly becoming extinct. Real reporting takes time, and you can get sued. That's why there were 75,000 newspaper journalists back in 2006. Now only 31,000 for all of America. We have less than half the number of journalists we did 2 decades ago. And yes, anyone with an internet connection can start a blog or a digital newspaper, and that's fine. But journalism, real journalism, is an actual profession. Yes, anyone should be able to write anything they want on any platform they want. But journalists, real journalists, are tantamount to teachers or professors, flawed but necessary. Not anyone can teach, and not anyone can be a journalist. Even a reporter working for the New York Post has to get their facts straight or they get sued. Not so with opinions. You can't get sued for having an opinion. So it's safer to have people opine than report. And that's the business model now for newspapers and places like Fox News or MSNBC. You can't get sued for having an opinion. So what you have now is, under the guise of opinion, these right-wing propaganda machines like talk radio and Fox News, they slip in lies that pass as facts. But you can't sue because it's just opinion. You have opinions based on lies. As a result, we have a population here in the United States that is desperate for real information. We are taking opinion and willing it into being fact. That's what we do to make up for the dearth of facts. We hear opinions, and we're so desperate for the truth, we will opinions into truth. The viewer, the listener, we hear facts where there are none. And the owners of these so-called news organizations, They say it's fine to give opinion and nothing but opinion because everything is subjective. It's all about moral relativism, right? There's no such thing as objective reporting. Everyone is biased, so why not just give the people bias, even admit that it's biased? Well, that's fallacious. It is, because while everyone is biased, yes, good reporting is not biased. Good reporting is what people say. Like I said, good reporting is what people say. The senator said this. His opponent said that. That's journalism. That's journalism. That's objective journalist. The senator said this. His opponent said that. This scientist said that. This scientist said this. Reporting is what other people tell you. But that requires work because you've got to go out and be told things. Now, in today's journalism, we've cut out the middleman and just have reporters who report on what they have to say. That's not reporting, that's opinion. But it's cheaper to tell us what the news means rather than what the news is. News isn't what you want it to be. Now, David Wayne DePepe, 42, of Richmond, California, was charged yesterday with assault and attempted murder and attempted kidnapping after he was arrested Friday inside the home of Speaker Pelosi after attacking her husband, Paul Pelosi, with a hammer to the head. Federal prosecutors today said the suspect intended to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and break her kneecaps. The suspect reportedly told police he wanted to torture Nancy Pelosi and make her pay for her lies. The Los Angeles Times is reporting that the suspect left a social media trail of anti-Semitism as well as other far-right conspiracy theories involving COVID, Pizzagate, and war in Ukraine. He is also reportedly a follower of QAnon. So, where do you get the truth about this story? Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, who is spreading lies that the guy arrested was Paul Pelosi's male prostitute? No. I get my information from newspapers, mainstream media, whose reporters, for the most part, are trained to report what people are saying. The police said this. The FBI said that. Speaker Pelosi's office said this. The lawyer for the accused said that. Reporting. What are people saying? That's what reporting is. It's reporting what people say. What we have passing for journalism these days is conjecture. As in, Dinesh D'Souza thinks this is what happened without any reporting, while Sean Hannity says he thinks this might have been what happened. Or Jesse Waters on Fox News says he thinks this is what happened. They don't pick up a phone. They don't interview anybody. They just think this is what happened because they imagine things. Do you see the difference? Real reporting is telling us what people closest to the story said what happened. Now, is what they say biased? Of course. And do they have an agenda? Of course. So you ask other people to tell you what happened. If Americans still had critical thinking, which we no longer have, we could read a news story from a legitimate news organization and ascertain where the bias is from what people are saying. For example, as something as anodyne as the Speaker's office claiming Paul Pelosi is going to make a full recovery, if you have critical thinking, if a journalist says the Speaker's office says Paul Pelosi is going to make a full recovery, someone in possession of critical thinking is going to say, okay, of course the Speaker is going to say that. They have to be optimistic. But what does the doctor say? What does the hospital say? What does the surgeon say, right? What is Paul Pelosi saying? Can he say anything? That's what reporting is. The police said that. The lawyer said this. The intruder claims this. The victim claims that. That's what reporting is. That's how an informed electorate could make informed decisions about this guy who has been arrested for breaking into the Pelosi mansion and hitting Paul Pelosi over the head with a hammer. We need real reporters. Megyn Kelly once worked at Fox News. Then she went to NBC News, said some racist things about blackface and was fired. And now she has her own radio show on Sirius. She claims to be a reporter. She presents as a reporter. Here she is talking to Senator Tom Cotton today about Paul Pelosi. Now, Senator Tom Cotton is a Republican. He's on Megyn Kelly's show to sell a book he's just written. He's not from San Francisco. He wasn't there when Paul Pelosi was attacked. Doesn't matter. This is Megyn Kelly talking to Senator Tom Cotton, instead talking about what happened to Paul Pelosi. She's talking to Tom Cotton about what happened to Paul Pelosi and not, I don't know, the San Francisco police chief who might actually know something about what happened to Paul Pelosi. Journalism isn't raising questions, it's asking questions. Asking those questions to people who can answer those questions. But this is right-wing media. This is what the right-wing media does. They raise questions into the ether and try to pass that off as journalism. Here is Megyn Kelly today telling us how she feels about the Paul Pelosi story.
I feel like at a minimum, the SFPD has egg on its face.
You feel that the SFPD, the San Francisco Police Department, has egg on its face. You feel that. No proof, you just feel that. Sirius is paying Megyn Kelly, I don't know, a couple million a year, and she can't spend any of that on an interview with an actual reporter who's covering the Paul Pelosi story. Instead, we get to hear how Megyn says she feels the San Francisco Police Department has egg on its face. Why?
They were in the house when this guy attacked Paul Pelosi with a hammer. I'm not sure how that happened.
You're not sure how that happened. So you feel the San Francisco Police Department has egg on its face because you're not sure how it happened. There's no egg on your face. Again, you could spend the millions Sirius is paying you and fly to San Francisco and ask how all this happened, or interview the police chief, or speak to a reporter who's covering it. But instead, you're talking to Senator Tom Cotton, and you feel the police have egg on their face.
How do you have police officers on site and an 82-year-old gets attacked with a hammer in front of you when you have a gun as a police officer?
Yes. She's asking, how is it possible that Paul Pelosi was hammered while the police were there and they had guns? She's asking, why didn't the police shoot the suspect and kill him on the spot? That's what a right-wing journalist thinks the police should do. A guy has a hammer, kill him. And that works out for the right-wing media because if you kill the suspect and maybe even kill, you miss and you hit Paul Pelosi, then people like Megyn Kelly could ask even more reckless questions with abandon, right? The suspect's dead. He can't talk, so you can just ask more questions like why, maybe Nancy Pelosi sent this guy to kill Paul Pelosi because Nancy's having an affair with Gavin Newsom. I guess we'll never find the answer to that question because the police killed him. I mean, the cops shoot the suspect, and if they kill him, the truth can then be whatever you want the truth to be. Like Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Kennedy. They both get killed, and now whatever happened can be whatever you want it to be. Why didn't the cops shoot the intruder before he hammered Paul Pelosi? That's just, a question that reporter Megyn Kelly is raising.
One of the many questions here.
questions, because that's how you serve the public, by raising questions, throwing them out into the ether for more people to raise more questions without ever directing them at the people who can actually answer them. Any other questions you'd like to raise?
There are security cameras all over that house. You can see them from the outside. Were they turned on? If not, why not?
You're angry about these questions not being answered, even though you haven't asked the people who could answer them. Why weren't the security cameras not turned on? Or maybe they were turned on. I don't know if they were turned off or turned on. But if they weren't turned on, why not? What are they trying to hide? I don't know. Maybe you could ask someone. I don't know the answer to a question. Why don't I know the answer to a question? What are they covering up? So many unanswered questions that I keep making up.
Let's see it. Let's see it all. I don't know what went on.
Yes, you don't know what went on, so let's see it. See what? You and your team of investigative journalists are going to pour through all the evidence, Megyn Kelly?
There's something going on here that they're not telling us. I just don't know what it is.
And you just don't know what it is. You have an insatiable curiosity. You're like Columbo, and you need to know. You have to know, just not enough to actually ask these questions of anyone who could actually answer them. You need to know. What do you need to know, Megyn Kelly?
I know enough to smell a rat.
Yes, you know enough to smell a rat. Well, that's probably Tom Cotton that you're smelling.
What's disgusting me is the media reaction.
You're disgusted by the media reaction, like your reaction. You're disgusted by how the media is reacting. What about how the media is reporting? What about the media's reporting? You're only talking about reaction. Who cares how the media reacts? What are they reporting? Well, here's some actual reporting from NBC News, Megyn Kelly. NBC News had fired you. Remember NBC News? Let me play you some investigative reporting from Tom Winter. He's an actual reporter, an investigative journalist with NBC News, the same news gathering operation that fired Megyn Kelly. Here is not a reaction. This is actual reporting from Tom Winter, NBC News.
We've done an analysis on DePepe's social media and blog posts over the years. Both law enforcement, our analysis, kind of the same in this regard. But according to our own Ben Collins, really over the last year or so, Chuck, this individual went to the alt-right, far-right type ideology that we've seen, talking QAnon, talking Pizzagate, and then just a lot of very anti-Semitic postings.
She's a Republican. She can only react to the Paul Pelosi story. She can't report on it because it would be embarrassing to people like Megyn Kelly. So all she can do is give a reaction, right? Because she's a racist. And she can't react to that because that would suggest the very thing she says played a role in the coarsening of our political dialogue and led to Paul Pelosi ending up in the ICU. She can only traffic in conjecture. She can't report because she would incriminate herself. For example, here is Megyn Kelly a few years back earning her salary on Fox News.
And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white.
Nice. That's what kids should hear. That's what every kid of color should hear, that Santa is white. That was Megyn Kelly on Fox News earning her salary. Here she is losing her salary on NBC News.
And she made her skin look darker than it really is. And people said that that was racist. I don't know how that got racist on Halloween. But what is racist? Because truly, you do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface on Halloween, or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween. Back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as a character.
You're a racist. NBC I have problems with MSNBC and NBC, but they have real reporters. Again, I have many problems with NBC, but they do practice something resembling journalism. They report the news. Fox reacts to the news. So if you get your news from Megyn Kelly, all you're left with are manufactured questions to sow doubts about the Pelosi's morality, that he was with a gay lover and it went bad. Then there's Dinesh D'Souza. This is Dinesh D'Souza, and he raises questions, then answers them himself, and draws his own conclusion.
Why was the assailant in his underpants? And what if the assailant said, "Where's Nancy?" Not because he was after Nancy Pelosi, but he wanted to make sure she was not home. And how did they both get hammers? And how did Paul Pelosi get away? Bathroom break to make the 911 call. And why did Paul Pelosi tell the police that he knew the guy? His name was David, and he was, quote, a friend. My conclusion? This guy, the assailant, is either a sex partner or a male prostitute, and this is a sexual rendezvous that went sideways.
Sideways. What if Dinesh D'Souza, when he was going to Dartmouth, was dating Laura Ingraham when she was going to Dartmouth, and he got Laura Ingraham pregnant, and Laura Ingraham wanted to go to law school, so they got an abortion. What if? I'm just wondering, because I've noticed that Laura Ingraham had to adopt kids. So maybe it was like what if Laura Ingraham can't have kids because she had a botched abortion when she was trying to terminate the child of Dinesh D'Souza inside of her? What if? I'm just asking, it's just conjecture. I haven't asked anybody. People are saying, I've heard, there's talk. What if? I don't know. My conclusion? I don't know, but I need to know. Why aren't they answering these questions? Why isn't Dinesh D'Souza and Laura Ingraham telling us whether or not Laura Ingraham can't have kids because of a botched abortion at Dartmouth? It would be great if they would answer those questions. Why the cover-up, Dinesh? And you have to take Dinesh D'Souza seriously when it comes to crimes. If he says Paul Pelosi, hired a male prostitute, that's a crime. And, if anybody knows what a criminal is, it's Dinesh D'Souza. He was sentenced to 8 months in a halfway house, forced to pay a $30,000 fine for making illegal campaign contributions. Dinesh D'Souza was eventually pardoned by Donald Trump. And so we should trust Dinesh when he concludes that Paul Pelosi is the victim of a sexual tryst gone sideways. D'Souza went to Dartmouth, speaks at CPAC, and makes movies that attack Hillary, Obama, all the while insisting that there's no such thing as racism. And there's a lot of money to be made for people like Dinesh D'Souza, people of color. There's a lot of money for people of color in the GOP as long as they insist America isn't racist. You can make a lot of money if you're Indian and you claim that America isn't racist. And like I said earlier, Dinesh is giving news to people who want the news to be what they want to hear, like there's no racism in America. He makes a lot of money telling people what they want to hear. Not the truth, just telling people what they want to hear. D'Souza's 2016 documentary entitled Obama's America is the highest grossing conservative documentary of all time. He has become the Michael Moore of the right. D'Souza's facts don't have to be right. They just have to be right-wing. This isn't about the truth. It's about training people to think in lies. It's about training the viewer, the listener, to believe what is not true. That's how Dinesh D'Souza makes his money. Then there's Lara Trump. Lara Trump is Eric Trump's wife. She's on Fox News. Her pedigree in journalism extends to having once worked as a producer for Inside Edition, which produces groundbreaking investigative journalism like today's exclusive. Inside Edition's exclusive, former nanny of Jason Sudeikis and Olivia Wilde, speaks out in first TV interview. Yes, Lara Trump, journalist. She is now a commentator for Fox News. She doesn't have to do actual reporting. She doesn't have to get on the phone, knock on doors. That's for poor saps who went to journalism school and actually take reporting seriously. No, all Lara Trump has to do over at Fox News is sit in the makeup chair and get fed talking points from her producer. Here is Lara Trump on Fox News yesterday opining, not reporting, opining on Paul Pelosi. Again, no news, just reaction.
And by the way, I think it is disgusting and shameful, Joey, you said this yesterday on the show, for anyone to try and use this for a political motive in any way.
Yes, we must not politicize the attack on Paul Pelosi. It's okay to commercialize it, right? It's okay for Lara Trump to get paid lots of money to tell us not to politicize the attack on Paul Pelosi, because politicizing would be unseemly. It would be tacky, because politicizing means actually doing something about it. Here is Joe Biden, who is upsetting the right wing this week by suggesting, having the temerity to opine that words have consequences.
And what makes us think the one party can talk about stolen elections, COVID being a hoax, there's all a bunch of lies, and not affect people who may not be so well balanced? What makes us think it's not going to corrode the political climate? Enough is enough is enough. Every person of good conscience needs to clearly and unambiguously stand up against the violence in our politics, regardless of what your politics are.
God, Joe Biden is blaming the rhetoric. That's what did it to Paul Pelosi. The rhetoric, which it did. We'll talk about that in a second. Eric Trump's wife, Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, who was a producer for Inside Information, said on Fox News this weekend that there is no similarity between the attack on Paul Pelosi and January 6th.
There is nothing to tie any of this to January 6th. The fact that potentially this guy was screaming, "Where's Nancy?" that has nothing to do with anything.
There is nothing to tie this to January 6th. How about the zip ties? Why don't you use the guy's zip ties that he brought into the Pelosi mansion to tie it to January 6th? Turns out, Lara, you sang out loud as though you believe it, that you can't tie this to January 6th, doesn't make it true. It's actually quite similar to January 6th. The guy, the suspect, is an election denier, and he came looking for the speaker. He had a list of other Democrats he planned to torture. Here is the president of the United States, Joe Biden.
It's reported that the same chant was used by this guy they have in custody that was used on January 6th in the attacks on the U.S. Capitol. I'm not making this up. This is reported. I can't guarantee it. I can tell you what's being reported. The chant was, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" This is despicable. There's no place in America. There's too much violence, political violence, too much hatred, too much vitriol.
Words have consequences. Words have consequences. I'm not calling for censorship, but there are consequences to shouting fire in a crowded movie theater. But then again, this is not falling on deaf ears. When Joe Biden says this, it's falling on deaf ears because the right wing can't trust Joe Biden. The right wing trusts the police, right? That's all we hear. Republicans back the blue. They hate the FBI because, the FBI arrests white people, but they back the blue, they back the police. And San Francisco Police Chief William Scott, unfortunately, isn't backable because he's blackable. They back the blue, but not the black blue. Republicans don't back the blue if the blue is black. And Chief Scott is black, so he's less likely to corner an unarmed black man and make him black and blue. So the GOP, they don't trust him. He says there's no evidence Paul Pelosi knew his attacker, none whatsoever. And during a press conference, the police chief said the attack was, in fact, politically motivated. Turns out, according to the police chief of San Francisco, the intruder had a list of other Democratic politicians he was planning to torture. Here is a clearly upset police chief of San Francisco.
We also know, based on our investigation at this point, that this was not a random act. This was intentional, and it's wrong. Our elected officials are here to do the business of their cities, their counties, their states, and this nation. Their families don't sign up for this to be harmed, and it is wrong. And everybody should be disgusted about what happened this morning.
Yeah, the GOP won't back that cop. In the GOP, you're forbidden to draw a direct line between the attack on Paul Pelosi and January 6th because you cannot draw a direct line to January 6th and the coarsening of our political rhetoric that emanates from the right wing. And this cannot be about political rhetoric. This can't be about all the lies made up about Pelosi, all the lies made up about Democrats. Nope. There's a talking point, and it was given to the Republicans before Pelosi even made it to the hospital. And that talking point is Paul Pelosi is a victim of a crime wave that's out of control. You cannot blame Republicans for using lies to stoke political hatred and anger. No, it's all part of the crime wave. Tom Cotton was with Megyn Kelly today, and here he is blaming the crime wave.
In the meantime, I wish Paul Pelosi all the best in recovering from this terrible crime, a crime that we see too much of all across America today because of soft on crime policies and failures to put mentally ill people into institutions where they can get the care they need.
Yes, don't politicize the attack, but if you're a Democrat, you can't politicize it. But Republicans immediately blamed the attack on the crime wave. And Tom Cotton, what is it about the mentally ill not being institutionalized? One more time about how we need to handle the mentally ill in this country.
Failures to put mentally ill people into institutions where they can get the care they need.
Wow. You fascist, you Nazi. Let's hear that again about the mentally ill.
Failures to put mentally ill people into institutions where they can get the care they need.
Which institution are we going to put you into so you can get the medical care you need? Institutionalize the mentally ill. Lock them up. Lock them up first and then treat them. We don't need free mental health care in America. We need to lock the sick up. And once you lock them up, you treat them. That's the GOP plan.
Failures to put mentally ill people into institutions where they can get the care they need.
Right. Then there's the Money Honey, according to Joey Ramone. Joey Ramone, the Ramones wrote a song about Maria Bartiromo. They called her the Money Honey. Here is Maria Bartiromo on Fox News parroting the talking point handed to her by the GOP. Here she is parroting the talking point that Paul Pelosi is a victim not of rancorous rhetoric. He is a victim of the crime wave created by his wife.
Crime has been such an important issue for people. People are afraid to go outside their house, and now we see what has taken place in the Pelosi family. Our thoughts and prayers are with Paul Pelosi right now.
Yes, it's the crime wave. That's what caused it. Matt Whitaker was acting attorney general before Bill Barr. As you can see from the picture, he also shares Bill Barr's passion for weightlifting. Matt Whitaker was the acting attorney general during the Trump administration. Here he is saying that Paul Pelosi is merely a victim of street crime. And he warned of the double standard in San Francisco when it comes to street crime.
Yeah, well, obviously, as reported, it's a horrific, invasion of his home and an assault on him. And it's, political violence should never and does not have a place in our society. We have to look at a bigger picture, Maria. And that is that San Francisco is crime riddled, and a lot of it is due to the lax policies of the local prosecutor. And when you take that context, it's going to be very interesting how this individual, who is charged with some serious crimes, whether he gets the same treatment as of a lot of the violent criminals in San Francisco and is let out and is otherwise able to go about his life while pending charges. So I'm going to watch this case very carefully. Obviously, it's a very high-profile case, so expect that this guy won't be treated the same as many others in San Francisco that are a menace to the citizens there.
Yeah, and he pretty much said it was a political crime. He accidentally said it was a political crime. But it's a street crime, and there's a double standard. They let sick people out of prison, and, it's where the Democrats are soft on crime. That's why Paul Pelosi was almost hammered to death. Kevin McCarthy is the GOP leader in the House. He has thoughts and prayers for Paul Pelosi, but bears no responsibility for the attack on him. It's Nancy's fault. Blame the victim. That's what the Republican Party does best. Blame the victim. It's Nancy Pelosi's fault. It's Biden's fault. It's the fault of the crime wave.
I wanted to convey that our thoughts and prayers were with her and her family and with Paul, and we hope for him a speedy recovery and that we're able to stop this crime across our country.
Yes, keep repeating the lie that it's the crime wave. Keep repeating the lie that cities controlled by Democrats have higher crime rates than cities controlled by Republicans. Keep repeating the lie that you're more likely to be murdered in a city that's run by Democrats. That is a lie. But Republicans, they just keep repeating it and nobody corrects them, especially on Fox News. However, Fox News made a mistake yesterday. They had Democratic Congressman Al Green from Texas come on, and he upset the entire narrative because he deals with facts.
You represent the great city of Houston, Texas. How big is the crime crisis in many of our major American cities playing in the midterms in your district?
Well, let's talk about what I heard my colleague say. He talked about San Francisco. I have some empirical data in hand. San Francisco had a murder rate that was half that of Bakersfield, California. Bakersfield has a red mayor. San Francisco has a blue mayor, and that's Ms. Pelosi's home. By the way, Ms. Pelosi, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. Bakersfield is the home of Mr. McCarthy, the minority leader. Mm-hmm. So I think we ought to compare states as well as cities. My colleagues are very good at creating alternative facts. But the truth is, according to statistical information, in 2020, the per capita murder rates were 40% higher in states run by Donald Trump than those run by Joe Biden. Empirical evidence. 8 of 10 states with the highest murder rates in 2020 voted for Republican presidential nominees in every election in this century.
That doesn't belong on Fox News. Laura Ingraham does. And when you hear something like you're more likely to die in a city run by the Republicans, you quickly switch gears and you say, on second thought, the Paul Pelosi story is about the First Amendment. That's what it's about. It's not about street crime. It's about the right of the far right to be able to spread lies without having to worry about the government cracking down on us. That's the issue. That's what this is all about. When Paul Pelosi gets hammered over the head, the first thing someone like Fox News' Laura Ingraham worries about is her First Amendment right to trivialize the pain and suffering of others while at the same time make stuff up.
So in the aftermath of this hideous attack on Paul Pelosi in their San Francisco home, of course, we hope and pray for his full recovery from this disgusting attack. The question is whether Democrats will attempt to use the actions of a lone lunatic to chill political speech.
It's about chilling political speech by asking you to stop lying about the Pelosis and the Democrats. We're chilling political speech. Nobody's censoring you. We're just laying the blame where it belongs, at your feet.
But you can't condemn the violence unless you condemn those people who continue to argue the election was not real, that it's being stolen, that all the malarkey that's being put out there to undermine democracy. You can't just apologize and say the violence. It affects people's mentality. It affects how people think, particularly people who are not maybe as stable as other people. So the talk has to stop. That's the problem. That's the problem. You can't just say, I feel badly about the violence, and we condemn it. Condemn what produces the violence. And this talk produces the violence.
That talk produces the violence. He's not censoring Fox News. He's blaming Fox News and right-wing radio. People like Mark Levin, who is a lawyer, very bright lawyer, very articulate, filled with rage and contempt for not just himself, but humanity. He was Ronald Reagan's, he was a chief of staff to Ronald Reagan's Attorney General, Ed Meese, and he's a man of principle. He was a Ted Cruz supporter in 2016, a never Trumper. He said he refused to vote for Trump. And then Trump got the nomination, and he was an always Trumper because he's a man of principle. And he's got a radio show, and he takes money from the Koch brothers. He's very smart. He makes people on the right feel smart about their bigotry. And he knows how to play to the Fox News audience, how to sneak in vitriol and make it seem reasoned, which is why he has a talk radio show, and he also has a television show on Fox News. Here is why Paul Pelosi is in the ICU, because of people like Mark Levin. Because people like Mark Levin reduce politics down to good versus evil. Because for people like Mark Levin, it's all about demonizing the Dems.
And they are destroying us from within.
They are destroying us from within. The Democrats are the enemy within. This is right out of the fascist playbook. The enemy from within. There is no such thing as a good Democrat in Mark Levin's black and white world.
Every one of their candidates is a radical.
This is a lawyer. This is Ed Meese's chief of staff. And what does he say about every candidate in the Democratic Party?
Every one of their candidates is a radical.
Wow. They're radicals. Every Democrat is a radical. Well, why are they radical? Because they hate America. Unlike Mark Levin, who's just filled with love for America. Not the people who live in America, but the idea of America, his idea of America. Here he is showing how patriotic he is.
We believe the American people are the greatest people on the face of the earth because we've created and established the greatest country on the face of the earth. The Democrat Party does not believe that. The Democrat Party believes America is too good, too big, too powerful, and they are destroying us from within. They don't even like the American flag. We do.
They don't even like the American flag. We do. And then They
don't even like the American flag. We do.
That's how much he loves the American flag. He will tear it to make cheap political points. And, of course, he's not a racist. No way he could be a racist. He loves Dr. Martin Luther King. People on Fox News have nothing bad to say about Dr. King.
We support and agree with Martin Luther King. The Democrat Party does not.
He tears up a picture of Dr. King the same way he tore up the American flag because he loves Dr. King. I'm certain that Mark Levin supported turning Dr. King's birthday into a national holiday because the Republicans loved the idea. It became a national holiday when Reagan was president. He was kicking and screaming, making it a national holiday, calling Martin Luther King a communist. They didn't like Dr. King. They don't like him. They say they do. King was a socialist who opposed the Vietnam War, who wanted to wage war on poverty. How do you love Dr. King, Mark Levin? Critical race theory didn't exist back then, but Dr. King believed in teaching the history of racism in America. He also believed in everything you love, Mark Levin. He believed in affirmative action, busing, and of course, integration. Yeah, Dr. King is everything Mark Levin and the Republicans love. That's why you're getting rid of affirmative action. Well, Tom Emmer is chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. He's a Minnesota congressman, Tom Emmer. He appeared on CBS News and was asked about the vitriol. He was asked about the violence that comes from the Republican Party.
I want to ask you about this when it comes to political violence. On your Twitter feed, you posted this video we're going to show just a few days ago where you're firing a gun and it says, "Enjoyed exercising my Second Amendment rights, #fire Pelosi." Why is there a gun in a political ad at all?
It wasn't an ad.
Hashtag
I was
or a tweet.
I was tweeting out something that I had just
#fire
done.
Pelosi with a weapon.
Well, now
wouldn't a pink slip be more fitting if it's about firing her?
It's interesting, Margaret.
Why a gun?
It's interesting, Margaret, that we're talking about this morning when a couple of years back, when a Bernie Sanders supporter shot Steve Scalise,
which was horrendous
when a Bernie
and
Sanders
horrific,
supporter
which is
shot
why we
Steve
should
Scalise,
be not
I never heard
putting
you
weapons.
or anyone else in the media trying to blame Democrats for what happened. We need to stay focused on what we're all doing.
We did extensive coverage of what happened to Steve Scalise. There's extensive
Nobody
news coverage,
tried to equate Democrats' rhetoric. People that
I'm not talking about your rhetoric. I'm talking about what you posted. You're shooting a gun. Our viewers just saw it.
Yeah, right.
#fire Pelosi.
Exercising our Second Amendment rights, having fun.
That's not a debate about the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
That's not a debate about the Second Amendment.
Yes, it is.
#fire Pelosi.
Yes, it is.
Do you
I'm running
not
the campaign
understand that that is
operation for the
suggestive to people who are in a bad state and in this current environment, how risky it is? As you're talking about the importance of lowering the rhetoric.
I disagree with you,
Why do you leave that up?
Again, I never saw anyone after Steve Scalise was shot by a Bernie Sanders supporter trying to equate Democrat rhetoric with those actions. Please don't do that.
Okay.
So that's real journalism, right? I mean, we attack mainstream media, but that's CBS and NBC. They have real reporters over there. And that was the talking point. That's the talking point. The day Pelosi was hammered over the head, the talking point went out. Bring up the shooting of Steve Scalise. He was shot by a Bernie supporter on June 14th, 2017. Congressman Steve Scalise, Republican from Louisiana, he's the GOP House Whip. He almost bled to death after a mass shooter fired 100 rounds into lawmakers practicing for a charity baseball game. Again, this is the talking point that went out. Bring up Steve Scalise. Listen to Congressman Tom Emmer once again spewing the talking point.
It's interesting, Margaret.
Why a gun?
It's interesting, Margaret, that we're talking about this morning when a couple of years back, when a Bernie Sanders supporter shot Steve Scalise,
Which was horrendous
when a Bernie
and
Sanders
horrific,
supporter
which is
shot
why we
Steve
should
Scalise,
be not
I never heard
putting
you or
weapons.
anyone else in the media trying to blame Democrats for what happened.
Yes, that's the talking point. Congressman James Comer is a Republican representing Kentucky's 1st Congressional District, and he too is repeating the talking point, which is a false equivalency between the attack on Paul Pelosi and the shooting of Steve Scalise. Here is Congressman James Comer doing what he was instructed to do, repeat the talking point.
The intense rhetoric that really leads to, feed into these people who are deranged and create violence. It's the same thing that happened with the shooter that shot at Steve Scalise and several of the Republican colleagues. Violence is wrong.
Right. And is there any other example of Democratic rhetoric leading to violence? No. And it wasn't Bernie's rhetoric that led to that shooting. He just happened to be crazy, and he shot up a ballpark. It's a false equivalency. Bernie never stoked violence by spreading lies about the Republican Party. He didn't call Steve Scalise Satan. I might have, but Bernie didn't. He never spread fictions that Scalise steals elections, runs a child trafficking ring. But most importantly, when Steve Scalise was shot back in 2017, Bernie immediately took to the floor of the Senate and he condemned the shooting.
The alleged shooter at the Republican baseball practice this morning is someone who apparently volunteered on my presidential campaign. I am sickened by this despicable act, and let me be as clear as I can be. Violence of any kind is unacceptable in our society, and I condemn this action in the strongest possible terms. Real change can only come about through nonviolent action, and anything else runs counter to our most deeply held American values. I know I speak for the entire country in saying that my hopes and prayers are that Representative Scalise, congressional staff, and the Capitol police officers who were wounded make a quick and full recovery. I also want to thank the Capitol Police for their heroic actions to prevent further harm.
That would be Bernie Sanders disowning the shooter. You don't hear the Republicans disowning the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. They trivialize it. And most importantly, they're not willing to do anything about it. Bernie Sanders, after that attack in 2017, came out for an assault weapons ban, came out for gun control, wanted the mentally ill to be red flagged to make it harder for them to buy guns. So that talking point is just horseshit. Bernie did not contribute to the conditions that made this crazed guy get a gun and shoot up a ballpark. Bernie wants to stifle the conditions that led to the shooting of Steve Scalise. Okay? Well, President Obama, remember him? Remember President Obama? You know, we criticize him on this show. I love him. I do. He's a disappointment, but I do love Barack Obama. He's just a major disappointment. President Obama hit Georgia and Wisconsin this week. In Georgia, he campaigned for Stacey Abrams, who's running for governor, and Senator Raphael Warnock, who is facing stiff opposition from Republican Herschel Walker. In Wisconsin, President Obama campaigned with Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, who was trying to unseat Republican Senator Ron Johnson, as well as he campaigned for the current governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, who is running for re-election. All right, you want to talk political violence? Here was Barack Obama getting heckled in Wisconsin. Watch how Barack Obama handles a plant, a right-wing plant, who's disrupting President Obama.
So, sir, you know, wait, come on. But this is what I mean. This is what I mean. I mean, we're having a conversation. this is what I'm saying. Look, there is a process that we set up in our democracy. Right now, I'm talking. You'll have a chance to talk sometime soon. You don't have to interrupt each other. You don't have to shout each other down. It's not a good way to do business. You wouldn't do that at a workplace. If you wouldn't just interrupt people in the middle of a conversation. It's not how we do things. And this is part of the point that I want to make. Just basic civility and courtesy works. And that's what we want to try to encourage. So, listen, that's okay. No. Wait. Quiet down. Look, listen, hey, hold up. Hold on a minute.
November 9th, I will go back to crapping on Obama, Pelosi, and Biden and the entire Democratic leadership. But we're 1 week out. That's one of the many differences between the Republican Party and the Democrats. Obama's knee-jerk reaction is dial back the anger, find common ground, lead by example. Here was Donald Trump getting heckled back in 2016.
There's a guy totally disruptive. I love the old days, you know? I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Anger, because that's all they have to offer, anger. I wrote about this in Friday's newsletter. Please subscribe to my newsletter and, of course, subscribe to this podcast. All the Republicans have to offer when they're campaigning is anger and rage, and they govern using anger and rage. That's all they have to offer. I wrote about this Friday, and here's President Obama yesterday on the campaign trail talking about what I said, and that is the Republicans don't have much to offer.
Just about every Republican politician seems obsessed with just two things. Own the libs. Yeah, let's own the libs. And getting Donald Trump's approval.
Trump's approval.
That's their agenda.
That's their agenda, Barack Obama. And what is their formula?
They're not interested in solving problems. They're interested in making you angry and then finding somebody to blame. And they're hoping that that'll distract you from the fact that they don't have any answers of their own. That's their formula. That's their answer to everything.
That is the truth. That is the truth. Stacey Abrams should be the next governor of Georgia. That is the truth. Republican Governor Brian Kemp will probably cruise to re-election. It's looking like he's going to win. He's commanding a 7-point lead over her, despite Stacey Abrams connecting with voters on both a visceral and intellectual level when it comes to abortion.
As I have said, abortion is a medical choice. And as such, it should be that a woman has the ability to make a decision until viability. And that decision about viability should not impact her life or her health. That is a decision that should be made between a doctor and a woman as a medical choice. I said that on Fox. I said that on CNN. I said it on The View. I said it to Teen Vogue. I said it to Elle Magazine. I think anywhere you look, I've said it again and again. And it is willful ignorance or misleading lies that change what I've said.
That is a winning message. Please continue.
There should not be arbitrary timelines set by men who do not understand biology. This is a law that tells women they have to make a decision about their pregnancy before they know they're pregnant. And in a state with 82 counties without an OBGYN, in a state where women are denied health care, when 1 out of every 5 women does not have access to medical insurance, it is a terribly dangerous position to put women in. And it is a position this governor will only put women in because he defends Herschel Walker, but will not defend the women of Georgia.
And yet she's losing. She's 6 points behind in the polls. Continue.
Brian Kemp does not have a plan for the lives of the women who are being forced to carry pregnancies to term that are unwanted pregnancies. But more importantly, he refuses to protect us. He refuses to defend us, and yet he defended Herschel Walker, saying that he didn't want to be involved in the personal life of his running mate, but he doesn't mind being involved in the personal lives and the personal medical choices of women in Georgia. What's the difference? Well, I would say it's the equipment. And I will tell you that as women in Georgia, we should listen very carefully to the fact that this governor has not only refused to protect you, he simply said he hasn't heard how bad it can get before he decides if he's going to do anything to help.
How is it possible that she isn't winning by a landslide? She's reasoned. Why? Is she too nice? Maybe. I don't know. Would it behoove her to be a little angrier? Maybe we need the same kind of anger coming from the left that we're hearing from the right. Although Stacey isn't a leftist, she's a Democrat. A little slow on Medicare for all, but she should be governor of Florida. Here is Barack Obama campaigning in Stacey Abrams' state of Georgia on behalf of Senator Raphael Warnock, and he's gently going after Herschel Walker. This is the old Obama, the non-threatening, lovable, and cute Barack Obama.
Let's do a thought experiment. Let's say you're at the airport and you see Mr. Walker and you say, hey, there's Herschel Walker, Heisman winner. Let's have him fly the plane.
That's the old Obama from 10 years ago, right? That we all loved. But Herschel is leading in the polls right now by almost 2 percentage points. What's going on? What's going on? Here is Barack Obama campaigning in Wisconsin on behalf of Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, who we hope wins. This is, the old Obama that we all have come to love.
Just because he's a Democrat with a funny name, he must not be like you. He must not share your values. I mean, we've seen this. It sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? So Mandela, get ready to dig up that birth certificate. Get ready. Remember when that's the good old days. Remember when that was the craziest thing that people said? Think about that. Like that wasn't that long ago. Everybody's all like, wow, that's some crazy stuff. Now it doesn't even make the top 10 list of crazy.
Great lines, right? Very lovable, right? But Ron Johnson is running on hate, and he's leading that race by more than 3 percentage points. Here is Barack Obama, almost as the savior of our democracy, someone we can all look up to. I still look up to Barack Obama. I aspire to be like him. He remains a role model to me, despite all the disappointments, and he is a disappointment. I'll get to why he's a disappointment in a second. I love him, but I'm really disappointed with him, especially when he's this good.
No, don't boo. Vote. Nobody can hear you boo outside this auditorium, but they'll hear your vote.
Yeah, I mean, that's great stuff. Great sentiment. Gives me the chills. Is it working? We'll know in a week. It did work for him 12 years ago when he ran for re-election against Mitt Romney. But there's never really been any such thing as the Obama coattails. In 2012, when he ran for re-election, the GOP kept the House and the Dems kept the Senate. The Dems did a little bit better in 2012 in the House. They picked up 8 seats. Those, some coattails there for Obama. And the Dems in the House, they didn't get the House back, but they won the popular vote for Congress by more than 1%. But because of gerrymandering, the Republicans keep the House, and so Democrats have to do better than that. Obama knows how to win for himself. And I think he has the potential to create wave elections that never seem to materialize. He should have produced the FDR landslide of 32, as well as the LBJ landslide of 64. The man is a superstar. Perhaps the greatest politician in American history. This is what a superstar looks and sounds like.
I have to admit that sometimes going out on the campaign trail feels a little harder than it's used to. Not just because I'm older and grayer. I don't know if y'all heard that. What? I'm sorry, what'd you say? Said I was still fine. Okay. I'm not going to tell Michelle you said that. Although Michelle does agree. She knows. But we're getting distracted. Squirrel.
Clean, too. Clean. Wasn't corrupt. My mother would get robo-cards on Christmas from the Obamas, and she framed each one. I loved Obama. He's a disappointment. I'll get to that in a second. I loved Obama when he was president. And yet, he never won big for the Democrats. He never won big for the Democrats. Maybe he'll move the needle in Wisconsin and Georgia. I hope he does. But why didn't he win by monumental landslides? What's the problem with Obama? Well, here he is in Wisconsin earlier this week.
Now remember, the question is, who's going to fight for you? Remember that, right? That's who's on your side, who cares about you, who's thinking about you.
See, there's the problem with Obama. Who's going to fight for you? Political superstar. He could move mountains, right? Who's going to fight for you? That's what Barack promised to do. But he didn't fight for us. He said he would, but he didn't fight for us. He was elegant. He knows right from wrong. Not corrupt, but he was never willing to fight for us. Showman. And when he got out of the White House, he bought a mansion on Martha's Vineyard. He bought one in Hawaii. He's hanging out with billionaires. He's not hanging out with Christian Smalls. We never see the Obamas marching with the workers. We never see him out in front of an Amazon warehouse fighting for the workers. But every 2 years, he comes down from the mountaintop to charm us, to appeal to our better angels, and get us to vote for Democrats. He's very convincing, but he's not fighting for us. He's not fighting for the homeless. He's not fighting for the unions. He never shows up when workers are protesting. He has so much political clout, and yet he squanders it on deals with Netflix, Jeff Bezos's Audible. He's doing podcasts about nonsense with Bruce Springsteen. He's not fighting for us. He's not going up against Jeff Bezos. He's taking a paycheck from Jeff Bezos, doing a podcast on Audible. He's fantastic, but voters, they don't trust him. Here he is, the same old, adorable Barack Obama.
Mandela's opponent has done more than just about anybody in Congress to spread conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. I mean, he has a gold medal in that event. He said the attacks on law enforcement at the Capitol on January 6th were, by and large, quote, peaceful protests. He did say that the rioters, quote, taught us all how you can use flagpoles as weapons. Now, if that's the lesson you take away from a violent insurrection storming the Capitol, I don't know what to tell you, but I do know you probably shouldn't be serving as Wisconsin's representative to the U.S. Senate. Because that's not how our democracy is supposed to work. I mean, if that doesn't elicit uniform outrage, what will? What does it take?
Right? That's the old Obama. Powerful but ineffectual and weak. That was his presidency, getting very little done. He got some done, but not enough. He played the victim throughout his presidency, asking this question.
What will? What does it take?
Is for you to fight for us. You are a superstar, President Obama. You are perhaps the most powerful political force here in America. You can save our democracy, but you're not fighting for the weak. You're hanging out with the billionaires. What will it take to get Barack Obama to fight for the 99% and not clear out Zuccotti Park, which he did? He speaks a good game. He knows about the 99%. He recognizes income inequality, but he's not fighting for the 99%. We need you, President Obama, to fight for the 99%. I saw a glimpse of maybe, this is wishful thinking, of a new Barack Obama. And again, we really need Barack Obama. Not to run again for president, he can't, but we need him out there, not talking to Bruce Springsteen. We need him out there with Christian Smalls, taking on Howard Schultz at Starbucks, fighting for unions. He moves the needle. He is a superstar. We're going to need him, especially if the Republicans win. We're going to need someone like Obama who can communicate the way Trump can, but only better. We need a new Obama. We need the Obama who existed probably when he was hanging out with the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who he abandoned. I get it. He couldn't get elected president in 2008, being an angry black man. This is a racist country. I get it. I get it. He is still, like Bernie, a miracle of democracy, but he has not lived up to his full potential, and we need him. We need Barack Obama right now. We need a new Barack Obama. Here is a glimpse of perhaps the new Obama, the new Barack Obama doing what I've been begging Democrats to do for a decade, and that is go after the children of the wealthy, attack the children of the rich, especially the children of rich senators like Ron Johnson.
And then his adult children bought not one, not two, but 3 private planes, because apparently carpooling was not an option.
That's close. You're getting there. Shame their families. The problem is you and the Democratic leadership has just as many corrupt millionaires as the GOP, if not more. It's a little hard for you to go after the children of the rich when you yourself are rich and only really spend time with the rich. But I'm seeing a glimpse of a new Barack Obama who isn't afraid to hit a little below the belt and go after the children of Ron Johnson. Here is what I think is the new Obama, and this is really the old Obama before he decided to launch a career in politics. This is the Obama we were never allowed to see. He was never allowed to be angry, the same way Stacey Abrams in Georgia isn't allowed to be angry. Maybe we're going to need a little righteous anger from Barack Obama. Not the kind of anger that gets people killed, that gets people storming the Capitol or breaking into Speaker Pelosi's mansion, but the kind of anger that gets Americans off their asses.
Some of you here are on Social Security. Some of your parents are on Social Security. Some of your grandparents are on Social Security. You know why they have Social Security? Because they worked for it. They worked hard jobs for it. They have chapped hands for it. They had long hours and sore backs and bad knees to get that Social Security. And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin.
I like that, Obama. We could have Medicare for all, Barack, President Obama, if you made speeches like that. You don't need to be president. We just need you out there standing outside Amazon, shaming Jeff Bezos into recognizing the Amazon labor union. We need you walking away from that Audible deal with Jeff Bezos. Audible is owned by Amazon. You're doing a podcast for Jeff Bezos. We need you talking this way. You're a superstar. He's not running for president. We just need him fighting for us, kind of like Ralph Nader. He's a superstar. We need Obama fighting for a livable wage, unions, Medicare for all, the assault weapons ban. Why are you wasting your time, President Obama, with Bruce Springsteen and Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos? You have political capital. Fight for us. Fight for us. And, you know, forget the midterms. Whatever happens in the midterms, you know, the die has probably already been cast. Early voting has started. We need Barack Obama 24/7 fighting for us. When I see his skills, I get so angry at him. Squandered hanging out on Martha's Vineyard. It's not too late, President Obama. Now, you have your money now. You can fight for the working class, for the poor. Pull a Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy, late in his life, toured Appalachia and saw the two Americas. It's not too late, Barack Obama. You don't have to turn to politics. You have to fight for the 99%, like this.
And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin. We
need you, President Obama, not to run for office, but to work for the 99%. Please. Please vote. Everybody, please vote. We have a week until the midterms. Please vote. I am repulsed by the Democrats, but I am a Democrat, and we need to keep the House and the Senate and get more seats. The Republicans are fascists. I'm David Feldman, davidfeldmanshow.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and office hours every Friday night at 8 p.m. Thank you for listening.